This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups. And my guest today is not only a guest, but she's a friend, Becca Campbell. Becca, welcome to Rising Tide.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell our audience a little bit about Becca Campbell.
Yeah, so I'm actually a Virginia, raised but born in Louisiana. I now spent like half of my life in Louisiana, half of my life here. So that's kind of cool. But I have two little girls who are 2 and almost 4.
Wow.
My husband and I, we've been married for about 7 years, and this is our first year of doing this business both together. So we were formerly both teachers. He was a high school band director, and I was an elementary school teacher. And we decided to move back from Louisiana to move here to Virginia to be closer to family, continue to grow our business here. We both serve at church together. We get to spend every day together with the girls, and it's a really cool place that we are in right now. I feel like our life is very different than it was even just a year ago, but definitely a fun time in our life right now with 2 toddlers, preschoolers, and a fun little business. So yeah.
So I want you to expand on your business here in just a minute, but and I know what you do for the most part. And so when our children were small, my wife really was a James Dobson fan. And I said, that's not fair because he goes to work, he does his radio show while his wife is at home taking care of the kids. You're actually a practitioner. You're putting into practice exactly
Yes.
what you're trying to teach others to do. So
Yeah.
so you and I just stepped on an elevator. We got about 10 floors to go. Give me your elevator pitch. What is Little Z's sleep?
Yeah, so I'm a pediatric sleep consultant. I help really tired, exhausted parents get their babies, toddlers to sleep through the night.
Wow.
Yeah,
Man,
sounds
we just needed one
like a
floor.
dream.
That
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Because then I say that and people go, "That's a thing?" They have no idea. Or I hear that, or "Oh, I really needed you like 10 years ago." I hear
Yeah.
that all the time.
So is the next question like, so is this going to cost you like $5 or is this going to cost you like
Right.
3,000? So,
Yeah.
because it's worth both.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you are. My clients are typically like at wit's end. They've
Yeah.
tried everything, they've tried it all. There's actually, I guess you could separate into multiple categories. The most of my clients are at wit's end. We've tried everything. We have been, reading, searching, trying on our own. It's just not working, and our marriage is falling apart. I am resentful of my child. I hate bedtime. I don't look forward to coming home and getting into dinner and bedtime. It's just not fun. And I don't know what's going to happen all night long. So that's the majority of my one-on-one clients. Then I definitely have some people who want to prevent things, right? So I have a newborn section of my business, and those are people who are like, I don't even want to get to that
Exactly.
point where I'm desperate. Like, let's work on it now. And then I have people who have just heard of me, and they're not really in a bad spot, but
Hmm.
they're like, oh, my friend worked with you, and I don't want to get to where they were, so let's
Exactly.
work now. So there's like 3 different sections of people I work with, but all of them, it's the same goal. Let's get your kid, besides newborns, because that is a totally different type. But the older, babies, toddlers, preschoolers,
Hmm.
we gotta make sure that they're getting that full restorative sleep that they need.
So what was the transition point? I mean, do teenage girls wake up and go, "Hey, I want to be a sleep consultant"? I mean,
Right.
how did you end up in this particular industry?
Yeah, well, I look back, and I'm sure like a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure you look back on your life and you're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense why I'm doing
Yeah.
this now. So I always actually have loved my sleep. Like I could count still, like if I go to bed, I'm like, oh, I'm not getting 8 hours. I'm stressed about not getting a full night's sleep.
Uh-huh.
I never pulled an all-nighter in college until I was like, oh, I feel like I should, and then I hated it. So
That's
I'm
right.
just always loved that. I've always liked my rest, but it really wasn't until our oldest, who is now almost 4, when we had her. I was teaching at the time,
Hmm.
and I took 12 weeks off, went back to work at around Christmas time, and she was still waking up at 12 weeks, like every 45 minutes, maybe every 90 minutes. And then that continued until like almost 4 months old. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I didn't enjoy my going to school anymore
Right.
because I wanted to be with her, but I was also exhausted,
Hmm.
and we just didn't know what to do. And so we would wake up in the middle of the night and she was on me, or she wasn't on me, and I didn't know why she was on me or where is the baby. And that's such a scary place to
Yeah.
be in. And my husband was like talking to pillows because he was delirious and not knowing what was going on. It was a bad spot. And so I remember waking up the next morning, right before I went to school, I Googled, how do you get your kid to sleep through the night? And I didn't even look at, I didn't know sleep consulting was a thing. I
Yeah.
just bought some book like most people do,
Yep.
and was like, oh, I'm a teacher. I can teach myself. And I couldn't, right? Can't do that. Well, I bought a book through a program, and the program had consultants. So I was actually contacted, and started learning about consultants. And I was like, oh, I could do that too. But I still hadn't gotten my own kid to
Right.
sleep. I just was looking for an out from teaching, but still teaching. So I ended up working with the consultant so I could see the success. And then I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So I applied, and that was 2015. I applied to a certification program, did the training, because it was that moment where I was like, wow, my baby, who in 2 weeks I got to go from waking up every 45 to 90 minutes to sleep
Exactly.
12 hours all night long. Whoa, that's awesome. So yeah, 2015 is when I trained and started, and that's when it all began.
So you didn't go to work for a company that was a sleep consultancy. You actually just got certified and kind of started on your own.
Right. Yeah. So it wasn't like we'll set you up with your business. It was we'll train you in our methods and then we'll go through mentorship so that you're actually doing this the right way
Right.
and have a year of kind of like monitoring. But all the business stuff was figured out on your own,
Right.
which, you know, maybe not the best way to do that for
Yeah.
people who've never owned a business before. But I always like that. I didn't know, but that like entrepreneurial spirit has always been in me.
Hmm.
And I tried to start little businesses even before that.
Sure.
And I worked a lot of odd jobs in my life that I was like, oh, I could do this better. I could do that. So it was this awesome, I mean, totally God-led path of like, this is what you're supposed to do. And
Hmm.
now I'm going to bless that. So it's been great. Yeah.
Well, and obviously he has. I mean, you because something has happened in the last. I mean, you said you started this in like late 15, early 16. I mean, what was kind of the time
Yeah.
frame?
May 2015, I was trained, but
Hmm.
even before I went to the training, and this was where I thought that this is what everybody else was. Before I even went to the training, I like knew what I was going to have my business name. I bought my website, I made business cards, like I had it all ready. And then I went to the training, and everybody was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was like, shoot, I've already told my principal I'm not coming back. Like
That's
I'm counting
right.
on this. And that's just what I've always done is like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of how I've always approached this. So May 2015 is when I was trained and then immediately came back and was like, I'm on the hunt. I know who I'm going to get as my first client and got those first three families that I had to have as kind of like can you find
Yeah.
people to trust you?
Yeah.
So I did that within like the first 2 weeks and then just kept on going. So it was always like a drive to like, I
Right.
want to do that. But I was also looking for a way to be home with my daughter. And so I wanted to stay home with her, but have, a business that maybe I could just run during like nap time, which is how that originally started.
Yep.
And now, yeah, we're in a completely different place,
Right.
but started somewhere, and that's all that mattered for me.
Well, I love the way that you kind of define like your three levels of clientele where
Yeah.
and there's a book called was it Feed a Starving Crowd. So you need to look that up because that's exactly what this guy
Yeah.
is. He says, find a starving crowd and give them a hamburger is what he said.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you found these mothers that were near suicidal and you
Yeah.
said, you know what? I have the solution to that problem. I'm going to talk them back off the ledge. And
Right.
desperate people are great clients.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
you can
They
certainly
are. They are.
identify with that. But so tell us, since you
Yeah.
started, what would you say would be your highest point that you've experienced since so what was kind of the tipping point?
I think actually we are like climbing that mountain right now. Like,
Uh-huh.
I know that for my husband, Chad and I, who are doing this together, like all of a sudden in the past month or two, I have international clients and it's
Mm.
normal for me to pop on my calendar for the day and be like, oh, I've got a Shanghai at, 8 a.m. this morning. And then I've got Germany at 2 p.m. Like that. I mean, if you had told me that a year ago, I'd been like, what? How do those people know about me? But now it's like, that's kind of what we're experiencing.
Mhm.
And I would have never thought that before. And creating like this newborn course, or creating some e-coaching opportunities. And so now that we have this year, I think has been our climbing up, growing our business, finding these moments of, didn't think we would be doing this, but this is exactly what we need to do. And it's been awesome. I mean, literally to just sit down right here at my computer and talk to several different nations all throughout the
Sure.
day is I'm speechless because
Yeah.
I would have never thought that in 2015. So it's cool.
And the nice thing, I mean, the business language universally is English.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
which is a great thing. I mean, as you know, we've lived in different places around the world, and we experienced that, the just the kind of the common vernacular, street vernacular, is usually the heart language. But when you talk about commerce, anything to do with tech, it like quickly shifts into English. So. Because it's a global village. I mean,
Yeah.
the internet has kind of dropped the boundaries between countries. So So
Yeah.
you mentioned that your husband Chad works with you. So what was that transitioning? Because he was full-time employed prior to this.
Yeah, so well, we when we lived in Louisiana, we moved in 2016
Uh-huh.
from like we had our youngest daughter. 3 weeks after that, we moved here. So we had a newborn and a toddler, and he didn't want to teach anymore. He wanted to find some type of business job.
Hmm.
So he ended up working at a sales job because a sales rep for a
Right.
company, and didn't love it, but learned a lot from it.
Hmm.
And then when we realized he was and we got to kind of choose his hours, which was great to fit our schedule.
Yep.
So when we got him to go from 6 a.m., he would work 6 to 2 every day. Then I would squeeze in from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 every day, and I was making more money than he was making. We're
Mm.
like, that does not make sense. Like, what are we doing? So that was back like this was actually it was last August. We were like, maybe we could do that. Haha,
Mm.
no, we couldn't do that. And then as the fall came, we were like, no, we really should do that. So we started back in January. So after Christmas, he left that job, and then like after Christmas break, whatever you want to call it, then we came back and like full on started together. And so he doesn't do anything with like sleep consulting. He is not, advising people. That's all me.
Yeah.
So but it gives me the freedom to talk to more people and have more meetings. So he redid our website. He does all my email, all of our like courses that we're building
Hmm.
and e-coaching platforms. He runs all of, like the behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
Our podcast, he does all that. So I just talk all day long. I just talk, 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 and then he edits everything for me, or he sends everything for me. So it's and we're a great team in the sense that like we're both able to kind of understand like what needs to be done without saying it.
Right.
So that's really nice. It also has its challenges working with
Sure.
your spouse,
Sure.
but it's been a good thing for us this year.
So this kind of the question of the day here, because I do interview people that are kind of having similar transitions. So how did you work out? Okay, I'm the spouse, you're the spouse. Who's the CEO? Who's the CTO? Who's the
Yeah.
CI?
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
the administrative assistant? I mean,
Yeah.
how did you figure out roles in a somewhat challenging environment?
Yeah, so our lawyer who helped us set up, like get everything kind of straight with paperwork and things like that, said, well, somebody has to be the 51%, somebody has to be the 49%, just for like some legal things. And because we set up an LLC partnership.
Sure.
And so I'm the 51% and he's the 49%. And so whenever we have difficult decisions, sometimes he'll say, well, this 49% thinks that we should do this. And I'm like, that's not fair. Don't pull that out because that makes me feel bad. But I think for a lot, he has some really great ideas, and sometimes I tend to be like, no, 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 that's not right. I've been, I still have that. I've been doing
Sure.
this longer, but actually, it is a really good idea, and I'm have to be like, okay, yeah, you're right, and I think he sees that, and I'm like, yeah, fine, that's, you're totally right on that. But and it's good because he's actually picking up on some sleep things. So
Right.
actually, you mentioned earlier about, I'm living this in my own life. Today is day 2 of getting rid of our youngest daughter's nap, and he called it weeks ago. He's like, I think we should take her nap away. I was like, no, we shouldn't do
That's
that.
right.
And
Mommy needs her sleep.
and yeah, so that was like when she had nap time, that was our core like work time. And so like as having little like lunch meetings, talk about things. And
Yeah.
so when he was like, no, it's time to take it away, I was like, no, no, no. But actually he was right. So he's kind of becoming more in tune with a lot of sleep things, but definitely a lot of I lean on him for a lot of wording things, or kind of making things more cohesive.
Hmm.
And then he'll lean on me for like, wait, is that actually how it's supposed to go? Yeah, because he can now like start to type up emails for me, but then I have to. We always say like, I've got to add Becca to it because
Yeah.
he's not relational. He's very professional in what he
Right.
writes. That's not
Exactly.
how I talk. You can't say that. So we're learning back and
Yeah.
forth.
Your child is a problem.
Yeah,
There's nothing we
exactly.
can do to help you. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, you got to add some
That
softness
may
to
be
it.
the truth.
Yeah.
You can't say that out loud. So, no, you mentioned that he doesn't get involved in the calls.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? Because when you're gone, he could be answering calls and saying,
I know.
I've listened to her enough times. I'm almost good at
Exactly.
this.
The only times he has gotten involved in emails, and this is so rare and not normal. But again, I work with very emotional people.
Yeah.
When I do get emails that are basically mean. He handles those. He
Mm,
doesn't even want me to look at them. Like, don't, you don't need to waste your time with that. I'm going to handle this. And that helps me because I don't need to get bogged down in, oh no, I made someone mad,
right,
like,
exactly.
or, they took something I said in the wrong
Yep,
context because again, I'm working with really tired
yep.
people. So that's been helpful.
Have you guys done like Myers-Briggs or anything? I mean, do you know what your different kind
We
of personalities are?
Yeah, we recently did the Enneagram
Yeah.
test, which was I'm a 2 and he's a 3. So that was kind of interesting to look at. I mean, it made perfect sense. As I was like, yep, that's totally you.
So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
somewhat familiar. So is that a wing or a
Yeah, so I'm
whatever?
actually
Or,
like, oh, I don't even understand the whole wing thing, but
yeah,
I'm like primarily a type 2, which is the helper, and that
yeah,
makes sense of my job.
sure.
That's like what motivates me. I want to help you, I want to help you. And type 3 is more like I need to have directions. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do this way. And I've never been one to be like, oh, I'd like directions. So that's definitely where we very differ, but how
Right.
he helps me so much and how I mean, I just told him yesterday, we've just started we're getting into some like virtual coaching that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be kind of like a course style, like you purchase an e-coaching package
Yep.
that's pre-recorded, and he's designed everything. And I would have never done it that way because I'm not a perfectionist. He
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So that like having that touch this year is just, I mean, that's a huge benefit
Hmm.
for us.
Well, I'm a little bit more like you. I just give me the wide boundaries and then let me kind of create within those the
Yep.
framework. I
Yep.
don't tell me how to
Yep.
do it because then I'll get really bored really quickly. So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I need I need that wide playing field. So
Yeah.
so tell me, what would you say would be one or two of your biggest pain points or obstacles that you encounter on a fairly regular basis that, especially since you've started and maybe fairly recently, like
Yeah.
what are some, bumps in the road that you still encounter today?
Yeah. I think I'm constantly trying to improve my experience for my client, because that to me is really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a really good experience with me. That I almost want them to think that like I don't have any other clients. You're my only client. I
Wow.
want to be that attentive
Yep.
to you. But that runs me to the ground, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like my Enneagram type 2 is I
Yeah.
want to help everybody and it's going to suck the life out of me. But if I can help you, that's what I want to do. And that's not right for my other clients or my business or Chad or the girls. So I've really been trying to find the dynamic of our business is growing so much, we're trying to multiply myself, and we have been able to differentiate our packages so that if you really do want to have me unlimited, and
Mm-hmm.
I use a walkie-talkie app, if you want to have that, you're going to have to pay a premium price
Yeah.
because our business is getting bigger now. But that's
Yeah.
hard for me because I want every single person to feel valuable, that
Mm.
I'm always there for them. So that's kind of like a personality
Right.
hardness for me. And now, especially that we're getting into like more passive income where
Mm-hmm.
you're able to purchase a package that
Yep.
I actually am not ever going to talk to you.
Right.
That is really hard for me because I've always been so invested in, are
Yeah.
you seeing success? Do you have any questions? What's going on? But that's the trajectory our business is going right now, that like I have to do that because we've hit a ceiling and I've hit my limit, that like we have to keep going and we want to. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm really
Sure.
excited about it, but how do I still maintain a really good client experience and relationship with those people that I'm actually not having like a
Right.
one-on-one time with? So that's yeah.
So with this walkie-talkie service that you mentioned, so
Hmm.
one thing that I would think is that your business or your services would be extremely cyclical. So like
Hmm.
based on nap time and nighttime. Those
Hmm.
are those are the two times that I need you on my walkie-talkie. Not only
Yeah.
do I need you, 1,000 other moms at that same time, depending on the time zone, need you at that time. So do you
Yeah.
run into that? I mean, or is it that frequent? I mean,
So, because I have people in different time zones, I haven't really found that, oh, at 7 p.m. my phone is blowing up
yeah,
because I've been really focusing more on helping you understand what's going to happen.
yeah,
So what's
that's
cool
good.
now is that like I know exactly what's going to happen, and there's pages in my sleep plan that I say, hey, watch out for this, 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 and this is going
Hmm.
to happen, so try this. And sometimes I'll have to actually message them and be like, hey, haven't heard from you today. Is everything going okay?
Yeah.
And they'll respond back, yeah, yeah, yeah. This happened, but you told me that, so I just did this. And so I'm like, okay, great. So, but those people that want the unlimited walkie-talkie, help me out, those are the people, kind of like me, who like, I don't want to go back and read things. Like, I want to ask the
Exactly.
person.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, and that's always a different relationship. And then really my favorite is being able to go into someone's home
Hmm.
and do that, because then that is like the ultimate client relationship, is being able to talk and meet and things like that.
Right.
And I really only do those maybe like once, maybe twice a month. So those are a lot more rare for me.
So this is an odd question. So are there similar issues with getting a child to sleep with people and that are going through like stages of life like menopause or
Mhm.
malopause or whatever, and they have trouble sleeping? Are there similar issues, or is it just completely two different ball games?
Yeah, two different ball games, and I don't even want to get into adult sleep because as a colleague of mine, she's constantly adding on services for her business to grow and expand,
Uh-huh.
and I'm trying to like stay in my lane
Yeah.
of this is what I want. But she's told me that she's added on adult sleep services and adult nutrition,
Right.
but adults don't want to listen. Which is true. They don't want to listen when
Yeah.
they say like, "Hey, you should probably turn your phone off an hour before you go to bed."
Exactly. Yeah. The,
Nobody
the
wants to
blue
do that.
light. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's easier for me to tell a parent, "Hey, you should turn that off for your toddler because that's gonna cause some trouble." Oh my goodness, well, absolutely, I'll turn that
Yeah.
off. But then as soon as the kid goes to bed, they get out their phone. So yeah, it's like a
It's a
completely
great
different
point.
thing. Yeah, and it actually it takes a lot longer. So I can work with families for 2 to 3 weeks,
Uh-huh.
but for adults, it's going to be like a very long time of working together, and you're not
Yeah.
really going to stay committed that long. And I don't even want to get into that. I'm really just trying to like, no, I want to stay in my lane. And I hear a lot of other consultants are adding on
Right.
things, but I just want to like build on what I already
Yeah.
have and make that bigger and better.
That's a great lesson for those that are listening. I mean, as she's faced, she's kind of in a kind of a hockey stick growth pattern here, but she is staying focused on her niche, instead of saying, well, I could do this or I could do this, or it's kind of like shiny object syndrome,
Hmm.
that is a before entrepreneurs all the time. And
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
sure your mind, even when you're out walking, I'm sure your mind is spinning about things that are related to my business and indirectly and directly.
Hmm. Hmm.
How could
Hmm.
I kind of weave that in, and how does that apply to what I'm doing? So um, on your first point was great as far as the obstacle that you face, and how to kind of balance those two. What's another obstacle that you face on a fairly regular basis?
Um, I think definitely is probably everybody's like time management, kind of
Yep.
like the shiny object. I have a million things I want to do all at one
Mm,
time and trying to focus in and being like, but what's the thing that's actually going to increase your profits, or what's actually going to be the most beneficial for your family, for your business? So there's
right.
always something that I want to do and add and have more of. And when I kind of even going back to my personality, if I have an idea, I want to do it right then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think about it. I just want to do it. And that
Yep.
thankfully is Chad. It's like, no, we should probably think about this. We should probably map it out. I'm like, oh, I just want to do it. So, so that's helpful. So sometimes, when I like have a new product idea, it kind of, I have to figure out the details, and I'm not a detail person. That's really hard for me. And I'm not quite sure how to map out details,
Mm,
right? So that's kind of an obstacle, is trying to slow down, which I'm not a slow down person, and trying to make sure that like what everything I do is gonna, it'll be done with excellence. But if that's because me and Chad are doing it. If it was
yep.
just me, it's gonna be like, yeah, spaghetti on the wall.
It's
Let's do
good
it.
enough. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it sounds like that you kind of your if you have a life motto, it's like I sleep hard, I work hard, and I play hard. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but those are all segmented in my
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
let's transition to a little bit more of a deep dive. Let's just kind of get inside your head here and
Yeah,
your heart. And so tell me one person online that really inspires you, and tell me why.
that's a really good question. And I don't know if this is like a cop out answer, but
Hey, this is your answer.
I know.
There are no wrong answers.
So I don't look at what other sleep consultants are doing.
Uh-huh.
I don't look at anyone in my industry at what
Hmm.
you're doing because I don't want to be distracted by like, oh, you're doing
Right.
that. I should do that. That looks cool. I should do
Yep.
that. But the industry that I have been looking more at are like creatives, like
Hmm.
photographers,
Yep.
artists, things like that, because they do so many really great inventive things in their business
Right.
that I want to mimic that, because I am like a creative person
Hmm.
in like deep down in my heart, but sometimes I feel like I can't because I'm like, well, I'm coaching, that's not creative. But I try to look at, what are like I really like Laura Casey, who does oh my goodness, oh, Cultivate What Matters. She
Hmm.
does all sorts of planners and things like that, and
Right.
goal intentions. And I like to look at that because there is actually, and this is like a big passion in movement I think that's happening is like a self-love, like you are number one. Like that's
Yep.
what a lot of entrepreneurs are buying into, and I don't think that's right at all.
Right.
And I love looking at like what Laura Casey talks about. Like you'll hear from the world. She believed she could, so she did. And Laura did this awesome print. It's like she believed she could, so he did. So
Hmm.
God did.
Hmm.
And so I try to like, I can look at the rest of the entrepreneurial world and some of my sphere where it's like, oh, you're the hero. You're the one who's like number one, and you should watch out for yourself. But that's not my business, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can look at a lot of creatives who are also believers, it's helpful to me
Right.
to understand that like, no, this like, I want to remember who I'm serving, why
Mm.
I'm doing what I do. So I try not to look at certain aspects of the
Mm-hmm.
business world and like look towards other industries that I could get inspired from.
I think that's another great word for those that are listening to our podcast here is that, don't just limit yourself to in essence the competition. I mean, broaden your scope and broaden your kind of your perspective and what the places you're learning from, and you can take things from different industries and apply it to your own particular I guess situation that you find
Yeah.
yourself in. So
Yeah.
just kind of feeding off of that a little bit. So is there like a life quote that really kind of drives you?
Yeah, I know what I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me this. I was like, oh man, quotes. I'm really bad
Scripture,
at.
quotes, whatever
Yeah,
you want to.
I feel like it's kind of definitely been different seasons of my life, but I think right now I've mostly been focusing on like don't be wise in your own eyes
Mm,
because like I said, like I've got these ideas. I'm like, yeah, this is a great idea. And I've had a lot of quote unquote great ideas that just flopped because it wasn't the right time.
mm,
I didn't have the things done correctly. I should have spent more time focusing on the details, things like that. And our daily prayer together is like, whatever we're doing, I hope that it's pure motives, pure heart, but like help me be wise in this
mm,
because I don't know if this is the right, I'm going to do it, but I don't know if this is the right thing.
yeah.
So let me know if it's not. So that's kind of where I am right now. In that, but kind of even looking back to the beginning of what I did, it was all about fake it till you make it. That's
Yep.
what I lived on for like
Yep.
and I still feel like that's what I do every day.
Yep.
Because I don't really, you're building this business, but I don't really believe that all the time that like, what I'm doing is like, wow, like it really is growing. I know it, but you still see yourself as
Mm.
small sometimes. So yeah, I definitely every day it's like fake it till you make it. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Those are like kind of right now, like
It's life
I always,
balance.
yeah.
That's what you described as, it's often called the imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah,
You
big
know,
time.
so I think even people that are wildly successful, I think still, fight
Mm.
that very thing. But it's good that you kind of outline that balance. But if you could go back 2 or 3 years and kind of hit a reset button, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself that you would think would be a game changer? I
Yeah,
wish I'd have known this 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
yeah. Absolutely. I would have invested a lot of money, a little bit of money, I don't care, in a good website. Honestly,
Hmm.
I have spent I've wasted thousands of dollars on what I thought would be a good thing. I ran my own website through Wix for the longest time, and I thought,
Yep.
I mean, it was fine. Honestly,
Sure.
it was fine. But then I've spent a lot of time investing in like marketing things or, oh, you can help me build a website. Great. And I actually know what I want, but almost going back to the imposter syndrome, I come across to some people who build websites, things like that, as if like, oh, I don't know what I want.
Mm.
You just help me, but I know exactly what I want. Like, why am I trying to hide behind, this facade of like, oh, I'm helpless. You should help me. No, like, I know exactly what I want. I know how I want it to be like. So I wish I would have maybe earlier on had someone, been able to work with, because design really matters to me.
Right.
I wish I would have been able to have that really honed in earlier on. Now I'm very grateful for what we have now. Again, we've like gone through so many people and things like
Mm-hmm.
that to understand what we want, and now
Yep.
we finally, we're able to do it ourselves. That was good, a good lesson. But I do wish I maybe had thought about more about like what is your brand, what is your marketing,
Mm.
what are you going to look like.
Yep.
But again, it evolves, so that's
Sure.
fine. But that is one thing I wish I probably had done
A
better
little
in the
different
beginning.
earlier.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything? I mean, I just really appreciate your time today. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think would just be a really good way to wrap this up? And then just tell us how we can find you online.
Yeah. No, I definitely love listening to other people's stories. I think what we're doing here is so valuable because like I love to listen to other people what
Yeah,
they wish they could have gone back and restarted on.
exactly.
So it's really good. We I am on Instagram, Little Z Sleep.
Hmm.
And we were talking about how do I pronounce my business? Little Z's. I would say Little Z's Sleep Consulting, but all
Uh-huh.
my handles are Little Z Sleep.
Okay.
So Instagram, Facebook, and then we have our podcast, which is Little Z's Sleep Podcast.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
send those links to me, and I'll make sure that
Yeah,
they
I
get
will.
in the show notes. And
Yeah.
Becca, it's been a pleasure talking to you and just engaging. And we've known each other, but I mean, I just learned so much in a very short period of time of just kind of background and just you've laid a great foundation, not just about sleep consulting, but just about running your own business as a whole. And
Yeah.
it's been very helpful. Will be very helpful to our listeners as this evergreen library grows. And thanks for playing
Yeah.
your part and just helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Becca, thanks for
Yeah.
joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.